Okay, guys. Injury-wise, the only players that will be out today will be Trey Tomlinson with his hamstring, and then Joe Noteboom with his foot. He was dealing with that last week, but he was able to go, and so we'll be hopeful that he'll go. With Trey, it'll be less likely that he'll be available this week.
Demarcus Robinson, especially the last 4 or 5 games,
sure,
really become a contributor. What have you seen from him?
I think I've seen consistent work ethic, Gary. What's been really cool is just watching. He's just been so steady, so consistent throughout the course of the year. Eric Yarber, Jake Peets, KJ Black have done a great job of just working with him. And then you talk about maximizing your opportunities. And he's done that. He's a big-time contributor both with the ball and then without the ball. And I think he and Matthew, there's a really comfortable rapport. 2 of my favorite plays in the game against New Orleans were 2 of the off-schedule conversions that we had. One on the first play of the 2-minute, where he catches it down our sideline, and that ended up leading to a touchdown that he ended up capping off. And then the third down where Matthew kind of got flushed to his left, and Demarcus ended up getting into his vision. But he's made a lot of plays. He had a bunch of production in that first half, and been really pleased with him.
What do you see from the Giants' defense under Wink?
Wink's a guy that I've always, had a lot of respect for. He presents a variety of issues. Going back to when we, played against them and when he was in Baltimore in 21, and he does a great job of deploying his players. You can see he's able to adjust and adapt to what he thinks they do best, and then he puts a lot of pressure on you situationally, and he understands some of the issues that he can present, and they're a real challenge to be able to prepare for, and they've got really good players, and so you can see why. And, some of the stretches where they've played excellent football, they're taking the football away, and that's leading to winning games, and they're very opportunistic. And, it seems like every time you flip it on, somebody's making an impact type of play for their defense, and it's a real credit to their guys and then also Wink. Let's just continue to take steps in the right direction. I love the way that these guys have come in, and I like the consistency that I've seen throughout the course of the year, but I think we've really started to play better football, more quality football, more complementary. I like what we've done and being able to kind of just play off one another defensively and offensively, some things that we can always improve upon in all 3 phases, but it's the consistent approach, and you've heard me say it before, Sarah, I think that's the truest measurement of performance, and, let's see if we can, come back, have a really good week. We'll be able to get more practice time in than what we've been able to based on this time of the year and then having a few days off. And so expect these guys to be firing on all cylinders and have their best week yet.
What was the benefit of being able to hold the Wednesday practice?
It really, just kind of what I was saying is you get a chance to be able to, you don't get better at football unless you play it or unless you do it at full speed. It's really important to be able to maximize the above-the-neck settings, especially later in the year. But to be able to have a situation arise where you have a Thursday game this late, and then it ends up enabling you to have a few days, get some good time with their families. It ends up acting as an additional bye later on. And so let's continue on with some of the momentum that they've created.
I know health is a big difference with the way the offensive line has played and sustained that play this year. But what else do you see as the biggest difference in that group?
Yeah, I think you mentioned it. The continuity, guys being able to play together is such an important factor. No different than a quarterback and receiver getting a comfort with one another. But I think the overall toughness, I think physically and mentally, I think Ryan Wendell and Zach Cromer and Nick Jones have done a really good job with that group. But, across the board, I've just loved the way that, they've continued to find themselves, continue to, play for one another. I think when you look at the way that these guys strain together, whether it be in the run or in the pass, they're a unit. And, when they come out together in introductions, the way that they just interact throughout the course of the day, the dialogue they have in walkthroughs and practice. And, I love this group, and you've seen them play at a really high level, and I'm proud of those guys.
Sean, would you say? Go ahead. No. I've asked you so much about Matthew, but when you look statistically what he's doing in the last 5-6 weeks, are you seeing something different than you've always liked him, than you've seen?
It's hard to say. I don't even think the stats do justice to what an impact he's making on our team. And that's saying a lot because I know the stats are really, impressive. But just the level of play, the confidence that he breeds with everybody else, the command, the leadership, the things that he enables us to be able to do offensively that you wouldn't be able to do with other quarterbacks. It's all of those things. And so he's always brought that to the table. But I think like anything else, when you work at something the right way with an intentful approach, you're going to get better. And I think he's getting better. And I think, he's elevating people around him. I mentioned it to you guys. He's elevating coaches and players, and there's so much confidence that he earns because of his preparation, his weekly rhythm, and his ability to be able to connect and communicate with his teammates, and then ultimately be able to go execute on game day. But he's done a great job, and he certainly has been at the the center of a lot of good things for this team.
Would you say you've gotten more than maybe you anticipated from Demarcus, John Johnson, and Akello?
I don't know if you ever really look at it like that. I think there was confidence in all three of those guys. To say that I'm proud and they're making big impacts would be an accurate statement. But what I like about all of those guys is it's a little bit different narrative for each of them, but all of them are really playing their best football at the right times, and they have huge impactful roles for our team. They embody a lot of the things that we want in terms of the football character, the work ethic, and then ultimately it coming to life on game days. But they've been big-time contributors, Gary. It's hard to say that, whether it's exceeded expectations or anything like that, but if you talk about what we're getting out of them relative to how fortunate we were to get them when we did and how it kind of ended up, we are pleased with that.
I wanted to ask you, between snaps or after plays, or even sometimes during plays, I'm thinking about there was a run fake to a little toss that was like very casual, like just slick that Matthew did a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the finger guns and some of the things.
Yeah.
Are you noticing maybe a flourish that he has? And I know he's been like this for years, but for you specifically, what do you notice about some of the details?
It just makes it cool. You're talking about the round of Demarcus Robinson. I mean, it just makes it look cooler than what the play is designed. He said, oh, well, shit, I didn't think it would look that cool, but he just puts his own personality on these plays. And I think when you look at it, there's a swagger and there's a charisma and just a confidence that he plays with that it's fun. It's fun to root for this guy. It's fun to see him doing what he's doing, and teammates love him. And, it's fun to see that. And, I love watching, all of these guys enjoy it and earn the right to be able to have fun and celebrate one another. But when he's operating like that, that means good things are, going on or in store.
Tough to describe Matthew. I know there have been plenty of instances, but since you've known him, has there been an instance that stands out where you just have thought, wow, he's just a really tough guy?
There's multiple stories. You just look at everything that he's pushed through, what he plays through. But I think pushing through that Indianapolis game with the severity of that hip contusion that he had. I think one of the coolest things about that story in particular, Sarah, is that, Joe Noteboom strained his groin during that game and ended up missing the next couple weeks. But, he's saying, hey, I got to finish this game for Matthew. If he's playing through this, then I can certainly do that. And, what a cool thing to be able to have guys playing for one another and uplifting each other. That's an example. I don't think anybody really realizes, the severity of the thumb issue and what he was playing through and what he still is continuing to be able to play through. But, there's a reason why when you look at the respect that he's garnered around the league, and you got all these superlatives that you can really mention, but I think one of the coolest things that anybody can say about a football player is, hey, they're mentally and physically tough, and that is exactly what this guy is, and it certainly isn't exclusive to that, but I think that's been earned just based on who he is and, who he's been from the very first time that he got into this league and when he started playing football. You guys all saw when we first traded for him a couple years ago, the mic'd up against the Browns going back to his rookie year. That's some legendary stuff right there. And so he seems like he's always kind of adding to that legacy. Okay? Thanks, guys.